Well, you mentioned Busco, so let's move on to NECC play. And you take a look at what they did last year, a three-way tie for first place with Fairfield and Lakeland. But Busco's got a lot coming back and has got some studs. They, in your mind, are they the favorite to win, or Fairfield every year can always be up there?
If I had a hat, I would just tell you to pick one, because what it is those three teams are going to battle it out, and Churubusco goes to Fairfield next to last week of the season, and then they host Lakeland the last week. It'll all come down to those October games. All three teams have a lot of experience back, but with Churubusco, they have a running game in Kyle Mathewson, who is just dominant, and then they have Kyle Monk, their quarterback. He's actually a better defensive player than he is offensive player, but he's a very good offensive player. So they have a lot of experience coming back. They do have three offensive linemen they have to find replacements for. Coach Lee Etzler was a little bit worried about that when I talked to him at Media Day, but by the time the first game rolls around, he'll have a lineup in place, and they'll be fine. I could see Churubusco winning that league again. Mathewson is very, very difficult to stop in that type of an offense.
Yeah, over 1,800 yards last season for Mathewson. And also, talking to Coach, he's a great linebacker as well. Coach said he's a Division I caliber linebacker, as we heard at Media Day. So certainly looking for big things from him. I picked Adams Central as kind of a sleeper in the last conference. As far as this conference goes, I like Angola. Well, I like Angola. Alex Bauer threw for over 2,000 yards last year. He's going to be a senior quarterback. I think they're a team that could maybe get in the mix of a conference title, or at least disrupt something that people would think or would have expected at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, that program's gotten better and better over the last 3 or 4 years. They've been kind of building each year, and so I could see them pulling off some surprises this year.
Well, jumping out of conference play, talk about some of the guys. We've already mentioned some of their names, but guys that you see as some of the top players in Northeast Indiana throughout this season?
Well, in particular at the quarterback position, it's just dominant this year. I mean, you've got Zach Terrell, who, like I said, put up marvelous numbers last year, and he went to camps this summer at University of Michigan and University of Alabama, played in 7-on-7 camps with some of the best players in America, and held his own. And I can tell you, I've spoken with some Ball State's coaches, and they are very well aware of Zach Terrell. A.J. Dove, staying in that league at East Noble, is another dominant quarterback. A different type of quarterback is Jordan Patterson of Wayne, who can really hurt you with his feet. But I was out there the first day of practice under new coach Kyle Beauchamp, and he was throwing the ball pretty well as well. And then we mentioned James Kanapke, who only led his team to a state championship in his first year as a starter. So he's not half bad as well. And then obviously Columbia City's Logan Rare is dominant as well. There's just so many good quarterbacks out there. And even some of the lesser programs that you don't talk a lot about, like Michael Starks. He was a great athletic quarterback at Concordia Lutheran last year, but I do believe that they might put him at a different position. They were looking at different guys at quarterback. Yeah. They're trying to figure out a way to utilize Michael Starks' athletic ability. But in particular at the quarterback position, a lot of talent.
Yeah, Coach Manigal, talking to him at camp, he was saying that Michael Starks may be the best quarterback they have, but he also may be one of the best receivers that they have, so they got to figure out a way to get him on the field and get the football in his hands one way or the other. As far as some schools outside of town, outside of the Allen County area, are there some players that maybe are, I guess, lesser known or from lesser known programs that you might see as guys that can really step up? You mentioned Logan Rare earlier. He's a guy that has certainly made strides throughout his high school career.
Well, with Tyler Truax at East Noble, he's a dominant running back, but what makes him so valuable is he has a great quarterback who can take the pressure off of him. So just when you start keying on A.J. Dove, then Tyler Truax just kills you. But obviously Daniel Meyer put up huge numbers. If there were a high school fantasy football league, you'd want Daniel Meyer on. You'd draft him maybe with the first pick. But, staying here in Allen County, the Wayne running backs are dominant. And you know who we really haven't even mentioned is John Easley of Southside, who was all he was all SAC last year at running back. And there's going to be a lot of colleges that look at him. So even I mentioned the quarterbacks are dominant, but the running backs are very, very strong as well. The thing about northeastern Indiana is really this. I don't want to say it's not a basketball area, because there's a ton of basketball talent, but we love our football here. And these kids play from Pop Warner all the way up and just develop their skills. And even though we graduated a ton of talent last year, we just replaced them this year.
My biggest question is, we thought last year going in, Roderick Smith had a good chance at winning Mr. Football, and if you're going to do it from an area outside of Indianapolis, you have to have a huge playoff run. You have to at least make it to semi-state. That just seems to be the way it goes. Do you see Ramond Wright a guy who's committed to Stanford, a guy that had 40 touchdowns in a variety of ways, some defensive, some returning kicks, some returning punts. Do you see him as a guy that Dwenger's probably going to make a run, as a guy that can make a run himself at a Mr. Football?
Oh, absolutely, he can make a run for it, and he'll get serious consideration. Something that might hurt him a little bit, and it's hard for a lineman to get Mr. Football, but Tony Springman, who's committed to Notre Dame, excels both offensively on the line and defensively from the defensive end position. So he might take a little bit of the luster away from his own teammate in Ramon Wright, but yes, it helps that he's signed with a big-name program in Stanford. Yes, he's going to put up big numbers, but the thing with the Dwenger offense, they're going to spread it around some, and so it's not like he's going to rush for 2,800 yards. Now I say that, he might go and do it, but you know what I'm saying? There's so many different weapons out there that might take away from him. It might be a little bit difficult for him to do it, but certainly he should get some consideration, because you look around the state of Indiana, there's not very many running backs any better than him.
That is true. All right, well, that'll wrap it up for our preview edition. Coming up next week, we're going to take a look at the Week 1 matchups and kind of break down how we see the first week of the high school football season going. Hard to believe it's only really about a week and a half away at this point.
Much like Hank Williams, I'm ready for some football.
All right, sounds good. That's Tom Davis from the News Sentinel. I'm Glenn Marini, and thanks for logging on to WANE.com.